Well, good morning, guys. How about a little bit of a shop update? Haven't given you anything for a couple weeks now. I've been busy with other projects, but I thought I better at least get some of you caught up with what's going on. So I've been busy here in the shop, been trying to just get stuff accomplished, been busy with several projects, been pouring a little concrete around here, just some small patches to move forward on a few projects we've got going there, trying to get this shop straightened around a little bit better. Anyway, if you kind of look above you, it's still a mess, and this is all going to be changed, but we've added some new lighting. And I got 16 of these fixtures in here now, and they're cheap LEDs. It's, well, I've got the stuff here. They're Barina. And I think these are 4-footers, and I've been buying these in 8-packs. I've got 2 8-packs so far, and we're going to add a couple more. This is probably what I'm going to use for all the lighting. It's a great improvement over the standard T5 fluorescent fixtures that we've had. They put out a lot more light. Low power consumption. They're a plug-and-play thing. They run off of AC, and they seem to do a good job. Real easy installation. Now, when we redo the interior in here, well, I'll reset these lights again. They're basically just, you can plug them together in series. They've got pigtails. They've got independent switches for them. They say to run 8 in, not to run any more than 8 in series in these 4-foot lights. So we're going to rewire them again once we do, and we're going to do away with all the fluorescent fixtures. But anyway, it makes a great improvement over here. So I just now hung the last 8 that I got in here this morning. So we're just continuing to run down the shop, and we'll finish. Like I say, when we redo everything, we'll reset these lights. I'm really happy with them so far. I'll add a link to them in the description down below for an Amazon link. Other thing that's going on, Hornady 366 parts. I've been machining on 366 parts for Auto Advance and Swing Out Wad Guides. Planned on having them on the website, but I've rebuilt 3 or 4 366s here over the last couple of months for guys, and I haven't been able to get ahead on parts, so it's about time to cast up a few more. I've got a few I'm machining right now, but hopefully we'll get caught up on those. I'll do a follow-up video on them when we actually do get them ready to go. I'm looking for a older Pacific 366 in whatever gauge and whatever condition. Basically, I'm looking for a cheap one. I'm going to do another rebuild on them and kind of show what I'm doing for a rebuild and what you're getting on a complete rebuild. I did the series on the 366s without having any intention of doing any upgrades for anybody else. But that's turned into a popular one along with the Dillon conversions for the Swager. So I need to do a follow-up video on those once I have parts in stock, and like I say, I'm going to do a complete rebuild. I've got one sitting over here that I keep looking at. We're going to do a complete rebuild on one and show that. I've just been pushing customer jobs through and haven't bothered to video any of that. Other things happening, Atlas overarm supports. These are aluminum castings. The originals were cast iron. And I've only got a couple of these ready to go. These haven't been powder coated yet. But there's a raw castings machine, or one of the raw castings machined. I've already test fitted them out on my mill and everything. I think it's going to be a good option for guys that want to stay original. I see some aftermarket just machined out of aluminum bar stock, and they work fine. They do what they're supposed to do, but they're not of that same vintage look as some of us like to keep on our little Atlas mills and Atlas machines. All in all, I've thickened these up just a little bit profile wise because, as I said, the original ones were cast iron. These seem to be working fine. They're a casting. They've got that little bit of vintage look, and the castings are not you don't end up with them perfectly symmetrical, which is what you normally saw on the Atlas stuff. But all in all, I think these are a really good reproduction. I'm really happy with these. So I'll get these powder coated up, and I think I've only got one other one that's ready to go. Once they're powder coated up, I'm going to keep one for on my mills. Gun related content, and I still get a tremendous amount of questions about some of the gunsmithing videos that I put out. I've been very hesitant to do any more gunsmithing videos on YouTube because it is not a friendly environment for the most part. Over the last couple of years, I shot a tremendous amount of content for that, and with the intent that I was going to eventually put it out somewhere. And I still don't know exactly how I'm going to host that or where I'm going to host that. there's going to be a lot of focus on shifting some of the content that I do to gun-related content, because that's what my job was for 30 years. So it's where a lot of my interests are, and it's where I actually have a little bit of knowledge maybe there. So at some point, it's over the next 2 or 3 months, it's going to start finding its way to someplace. And I don't know exactly where I'm going to put that. I am going to go ahead and launch my Patreon page, which is for right now going to be basically gun-related content. If somebody feels like supporting me there, that's great. I appreciate it, but it's certainly not required. I've had a few people said I should do that, and I've had a Patreon page, but I have not actually launched it to the public. So I'll probably go ahead and launch that, and like I say, we'll link that, and once I do that, well, I'll put a link on most of my videos probably. So, but it's not necessary. You know, it's just one of those things that would help the channel a little bit if you feel so inclined. So anyway, along those lines, a lot of tooling going on for that. I have been doing a little more videos on related content. This is one of my upcoming projects, and this is a casting pattern that I produced quite a while ago. I'm going to modify it a little bit more, but it will be for a sight fixture jig. The most common one out there that we see is the Forester jig, and it's for drilling and tapping rifles for either a scope or for open sights. I've got one that I've used for several years that I built, and it's bar stock that's assembled into it with some purchased components to complete it. I've been working on this jig because my intent was to cast them and offer them for sale. The problem I've had with them is with the length of them, I didn't have machinery capable of squaring all my surfaces to my satisfaction. The Forester jig, if you're not familiar, is a cast aluminum jig, and it has an overarm bar that moves along the rail, and takes interchangeable drill inserts to drill and tap for different scope configurations or to mount open sights. The downfall of that jig and the primary complaint that I have with it, and I originally learned on a Forester jig at the shop that I started out at, had a Forester jig. My main complaint with them was they weren't long enough to install open sights. Their jig's approximately 20 inches long, and when you mount a receiver or a barreled action in there and try and drill and tap it, if you're actually mounting open sights, why, it doesn't give you enough support, in my opinion, out on the end of the barrel to mount the front sight, which is kind of a tricky operation anyway. It's a specialized tool, but if you've got one and needed it, I consider it almost indispensable. But that was the main downfall from it. There was another company that offered an extension on the Forester jig, and I don't believe it didn't last very long, and I think the main problem was holding alignment. So don't have any experience with it, and it's long gone. You know, we saw it for a few years, and then they weren't available anymore. So this fixture is about 26 inches long, and will, with a little care and setup, will accomplish the same thing as the built-up fixture that I operate off of right now. And you know, it's one of those projects that I've had on the back burner for quite some time, and it'll probably get finished as I do more gun-related content. So that's and part of the reason for starting on more gun-related content is, as I finish this remodel, why I'm going to reset up the gun shop portion of it. Even though I've retired from it, why I still work off of my same bench for a lot of things, and I've got a lot of my own projects, and I still have a lot of guys that will come and, you know, say, will you do this for me real quick, type of thing. So if I'm standing here and have opportunity to screw in a sight for them, or a shotgun bead or something like that, why, I will certainly do that for them. So anyway, that's the reason for it, and I'm basically going to be setting up a new shop the way I would set one up if I was starting out in the gunsmithing business. That's where my inspiration for doing a little more gun-related content has begun, and we'll see how I offer that. I don't know what's happening there, but anyway, that's kind of a little shop update of what's happening in the shop. Now, other things that are going on that I've been doing, there again, more organization, moving stuff around get one thing out of the way to do something else. Let's go outside and look at the projects and the progress. Rahn Mayer Carpenter lathe. We moved it over here, got it situated, and been starting to do a little bit of work on it. I was going to go ahead and remount the belt drive assembly, the gearbox, and the motor back up on top the way it was, and I'll throw a picture of the original when it was sitting before we moved it home. I knew then it was way too tall, and my intent was to shorten it up, and I wasn't sure how much, or shorten the overarm assembly down. I was going to go ahead and assemble it here and run it. Now I've run the motor. I had the motor running yesterday. We've discovered it's a single phase 220 volt. I believe it's a 3-horse. The tag on it's all faded away, but there's some stampings on it. So from what I gather, it's a 3-horse motor. Runs really good. Runs really smooth. No problem with the bearings. It sounds really, really good. I'm really impressed, and I'm really surprised. So anyway, I was going to reassemble it. I wanted to run the rest of the lathe, and when I moved it over here, we pressure washed it off again and tried to clean up a little bit more. Now what we're seeing is my older cherry picker over here, and it's strapped down to the lathe bed, and it's how I originally disassembled the assembly up top. So I was going to remount it. Well, I discovered that it's too tall. I can't mount it here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm fairly confident that we're going to do something with this lathe as time goes on. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with the bed. The bed shows a lot of wear just in front of the chuck, which you'd expect to see. So I don't know exactly what we're going to do with that or how we're going to address that. But I decided I'm going to go ahead and rework the overarm assembly because the motor runs good. Everything else seems to be fine on it. I'm going to drop this assembly down about 18 inches, it looks like. And that's what I was going to do today, was unbolt that, because it all just bolts on, and go ahead and start shortening it up. But it's a little windy, a little bit cold today, so that's not going to happen. So anyway, we're working on that. Like I say, I've had the motor running, runs good. So the next thing with this will be to go ahead and pull this upright off and this bracing, and we'll go ahead and shorten it up that 18 inches, make sure everything's going to fit, and get it fully welded back together. And then we'll assemble the top end. We're going to have to clean that up with the mounting and everything, the way it's done. And I've got it down here. Here's our overarm assembly, or our belt drives and everything. My only concern is power transmission when we shorten up the belt on it. I don't think it's going to be an issue on this. If it is, we'll maybe have to do something else, but I don't see it as a major issue at this point in time. We'll see what develops with it. So gonna do that, gonna work on that, and while we're there, like I say, we'll clean up this this welded assembly. There's a lot of chicken poop on there and things like that we're gonna have to clean up because it's kind of ugly looking in some respects. So we'll do something with that. But other things with this lathe, it's just dirty and grungy. I see the compound, it's seized up. You know, we'll have to loosen the gibs up and do it. Everything else seems to run okay. There's a lot of wear in it, of course, but you know, it's 115 or 120 years old, so I don't really expect anything different. Other thing we've got is a Sheldon lathe that's sitting over here. It's sitting here under tarp. When we moved it over here yesterday, I went ahead and washed it off and got a few things going there. So it's more of a concern for me to accomplish something on it than it is really to be working on the Rahn Mayer. But we'll be proceeding there. So kind of what's happening in the shop. So comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below. And as always, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch.